This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're recording.
Okay, we'll get started. Chris and David, we have a check sheet here. When he checks his name, Chelsea will have who's here and who isn't here. Okay, thank you. Okay, shall read the following. Supervisors and members of the committee, please keep the red button on the mic in the up position. When the red button is depressed, the mic is muted. For those attending virtually, please keep your mics off until you are ready to speak. If you have the mics on, we will turn them off here. Please complete request to address form located in the back to the district manager, board meetings, or manager facilitating. Please come forward to the podium and speak into the mic. Virtual members comment. Go to the go to meeting. Please identify yourself and spell your name for the record. I will take the roll just because it's here right now. David? Here. Gary? Here. Chris? Here. Tom? Here. Bowler? Tom Murphy? Here. Virginia? Here. And Warren. All 7 people are here. Cellular devices, please put them so they don't go off during the meeting. Don't check mine too on that. We have no one. I don't think we have. Do we have anybody on the?
Yeah, we have a couple folks.
Okay, we have anybody. We have no public comment sheets in. Public comment sheets from people that are online. Okay. Okay, we'll move then on to the approval of the minutes. Everybody got a copy of the minutes? With it? Any?
Oh, you skipped Pledge of Allegiance.
What did I skip? Pledge of Allegiance. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. It's Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that. Okay. Should have been checking things off. Okay. Minutes. Anybody? Any additions or corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Virginia approves. Second. Chris seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. We got the financial report in today.
Sorry.
Oh, that's no problem. Now we, I don't know if anybody has had a chance to review it. I took a glance through. Gary probably looked at it. The one thing that popped out for me was they got that $1,943 on there. So if you want to make some comments on that, Gary, I appreciate it because I haven't really looked at it that closely yet.
Yeah, and just for my information, apparently we're paying a little salary for like 4 employees.
Whatever is laid out in the staffing
There's one,
percentage plan.
Okay. Down any contractual services for statewide, there's a payment on 11/15 and another on 11/30. What months are those for? Are we paying arrears or forward advance?
Well, one of them is labeled October expense, and one is, oh, you're saying, well, we had a credit on one.
Mm-hmm.
We do not prepay. We always pay after the services have been rendered.
So this will be October and November then?
Should be, yes.
Should be.
Should be.
So they've stopped sending them in a week early.
No, they're still trying to send them in early. They already sent us, they tried to send us December's through the holidays and everything else. And Laura, we will not pay it until the end of the month.
Okay.
And that's fine. I spoke
send them out so that people have them, because they have one or two problem customers that are months behind.
We have them and we sit on them until the end of the
They don't
month.
expect you to pay until after the month is over, just like with the HOA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
My next one, Chris, you might be able to tell me this better, under gatehouse repair. We had a repair for $474. I don't remember the gate being down,
11:15.
11.50,
What's the vendor?
11.15.
Durasert. Durasert.
Service Corporation.
And I apologize, we will get these out to you in advance, and then if you have specific questions about these, you can get with Laura prior to
Okay.
the meeting, but I apologize.
I
we
don't even
didn't
know who
get to do
Durasert is. Our gate vendor is Action.
Yeah.
And Cypress does the other stuff, but
And
we
it
don't,
says,
we don't put those bills through because that's software.
and under description, it says repair.
Yeah, I mean, we've had repairs, but they've always been Action.
I wonder
And we've been paying them. We
Yeah.
haven't been putting them through as far as I know, even though some of them, if it's a programming repair or if it's a car breaking something, we take care of it because most of the time it's reimbursed.
Well-
If it's a physical equipment breakdown,
Mhm.
then we put them through, but as far as I know, I don't think we've put any through to down here in months.
I wonder who this Durasert
Yeah,
Corporation
I don't know who
is.
that is.
Can we check?
Yeah, we can look into it and get back to you at the next.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe it's somebody else's gate.
Yeah, that's possible too, yeah. Okay.
Okay, and I guess taxes, that's just once a year under other fees and charges.
To send out the bill, yes.
Yeah.
That gets
That's our
distributed
tax-
amongst
That
everything.
on the gatehouse, I guess, taxes on the gatehouse?
What's that?
Taxes?
No,
$500.
when we send out to Lee County and we mail out the assessment, the bills, that gets distributed amongst all of the funds.
Okay, so 102, 04.
So that's a prorated for us.
It's for, yeah, it's split
Yeah.
proportionately.
So many houses get charged this, so many
Right.
doors get this, I got.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay.
Anybody
Anybody else have any questions on that?
Says online door service, door repair company, loading docks and doors and,
That wasn't the company that did the slider, did it? Was it?
no.
Wouldn't have been 400, wouldn't have been 400.
I was gonna say it wouldn't be 400. I don't know.
We'll,
Okay, we'll have to check to see who that was.
we'll look into it and get back
Yeah.
to you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Anybody else got anything on that? I know they just come out this afternoon. I just got a quick glance through that. A couple things popped out.
And if you have any specific questions, feel free to email Laura directly and she can clarify those
Right.
items for you. But I will look into the Duraserve
Okay.
and report back to you all.
Okay. Okay, moving on to our favorite tree in Stoneybrook. Everybody wants it gone. I understand.
Yeah, you got approval from the board.
Okay.
We just had it last month.
So I think, and we already approved to do it. The last meeting that we tabled it was to change the cost. I did have, when Joshua was out here, I had them give me an estimate of what they would be, and you should have that in your packet. And they were about $1,000 more, or just over $1,000 more than what Mainscape was. So the cost is $2,755. And that's been verified with them, but that is still a good price since there was some time involved. So I think we would need a motion to move forward and approve the cost of $2,755 to remove the tree, the oak tree, replace it with a 3-pronged Christmas palm. And they're going to do some other alterations around there with some other plants, etc. So the total cost was $2,755 to Mainscapes. So all we need is a motion to approve the cost, and we can move on and have that tree taken out.
I move that we approve the cost.
Okay, Virginia?
Second.
Chris? Any other questions?
I don't see anything about a 3-pronged Christmas. Oh, well, I'm sorry, never mind. I see it now.
You see it? Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'll get the purchase order to Laura tomorrow morning. Oh. Okay. Next item is the traffic study review from our consulting firm. And everybody should have had an opportunity to review that. I put a little, some comments on it. Keith and I have been meeting on that, and it would appear that most of our signs are really not a problem. The stop signs and not the parking signs, but the street signs and stuff are within the area. They all have to be redone, raised, redone, put in differently, etc. And so I've been working with Keith, and we both kind of concur that our biggest problem is the poles. And the poles, we've got about 40 some that need to be replaced or fixed. And I know Sinex gave us a cost to fix them, a bunch of them. But when I got talking to the sales guy, he said, well, $425 will refurbish it. And if you look on the sheet there, it tells you what they do. They clean it and paint it, and that's about it. They take it out of the ground, take it to their shop, clean it, paint it, and then take it back and put it back in the hole, and etc. And they put another sign up there while they're doing that, which is fine, except if there's other stuff that has to get done. If you look at some of the poles, we have most of them marked. There's corrosion on them, and if there's corrosion on them, they're going to have to sandblast them. That's an extra charge. If there's parts or pieces broke inside, that's an extra charge. The cost for a pole from the 425 could go up to $800-900 to repair. And I told Matt, don't want to do that. If we're going to have to pay that much for a pole, then we need to get a new one. So he is currently checking the poles to see which ones can be refurbished and which ones may need to be replaced. So he's working on that, and we'll get that information.
How much is a new pole?
I'm sorry?
How much is a new pole?
Be about somewhere between $800 and $900. And it depends what all we have to put on it and stuff, and the length of it. Length would be about 10-foot pole at this time. So we're kind of looking at that. I think the whole thing would be over 1,000 if we had to do some stuff, but we have a lot of the parts and pieces.
I thought we said anything structurally, Florida Power and Light would be responsible for.
That's the light pole.
A light pole.
We're talking about all the
Oh,
street
the
signs.
stop sign. Yeah, that is
Just
stop
the
sign,
green
yeah.
ones? Anything Pedro could paint?
I'm sorry?
Well, that's what I would think, even if it wasn't Pedro, wouldn't it be more cost effective for the company? I take it down, right on site, you should be able to sand it if it needs to be sanded, get out the can of Hunter Green and spray it, and it's a lot cheaper than taking it down, bringing it to the shop, doing the work, bringing it back, reinstalling it, if it's a structural pole.
Okay.
If it needs to be replaced, then that's a whole different story.
Okay. You sound just like me talking. Because I went looking for that electrolysis painter where
We're still working
they
through it.
paint it and they can spray it in the whole nine
Oh,
yards.
and it pulls the pin to it, so there's no overspray.
And I called 3 companies, they're all out of business.
Electrostatic.
Yeah, electrostatic, there you go. I knew someone would know what it was, but, so that's the way they do it. I questioned him because it took a long time to get, was it, the one that they knocked the pole down, they took it out, they put a sign up, and it was gone for about 4 to 6 weeks.
And it's on the corner of Crooked.
Yeah, now he tells me they can, once they get the stuff going, they can do the whole thing in 6 to 8 weeks. I thought, okay, lots of luck with that, but right now, I think we have some other decisions that we need to kind of kick off so we know how many signs we're gonna need, et cetera. The one recommendation from the say the stop signs are fine, replacing the parking sign was a question. And the sign, I have to get my signs out here.
Is that what the red and pink ribbons are on the bottom of the sign?
Well, those are the ones that need
need
work,
work.
that need work, yeah. They recommended, on the parking signs, they recommended the one with the P here, instead of what we have, because the one we have up there right now is not listed within the manual. Keith and I got together and we looked at the other ones that are available. And we felt the one that says no parking on pavement would be more apropos to what we're doing in Stoneybrook, and not allowing parking on the streets, but this, they consider on the pavement. So that's the one thing we would want, to consider. The other thing that, the consultant recommended was that we only really need to post one speed limit sign. And if we post that at the entrance with a sign underneath it that says speed limit 25 unless otherwise posted, that would cover our whole area, because it's only one way in, one way out, which would be fine for the speed, because again, the speed is pretty consistent as far as all over in that particular way, and no, I don't think anyone really questions that aspect. We talked about maybe we only need one parking sign, and we got to discussing, and we both had the same feeling. If we put one sign on Pebblebrook that says no parking on pavement, people on the side streets are going to say, well, good, you can't park on the pavement on Pebblebrook, but we can do it on the other streets.
Oh, yeah.
So we thought what we may have to do is go ahead and replace the signs that are there now and put the other parking sign on the entrance of each of the streets where we have the other signs. And if we take down the speed limit signs, the sign that we'd have to get for the parking, the size would probably fit that particular pole, so we wouldn't have too much stuff. And even the sign that has the no street parking on it, that gives us another pole that we'd be able to use without having to buy a new one. Trying to kind of mix and match and get them all put together so we use what we have before we have to go out and buy more poles.
I'd like to play devil's advocate, if
Sure.
I could, for just 1 second. I happen to think that the 25-mile-per-hour signs there are good. And one sign at the entrance, I'm not so sure. We have a lot of people who zoom past people, especially on the straightaways. And maybe what we do is take a hybrid of your thought, Warren, and that is alternate, because there are a bunch of 25-mile-per-hour signs all the way down. Maybe do 25 and then no parking on pavement, and then 25 and then no parking on pavement.
I think the no parking would be more apropos on the side streets. The parking or the speed limit would be good on Pebblebrook. And there are some signs here that.
There's a beautiful amount of signs.
Yeah, and so I think we need to take a look at those. Have the one at the beginning that says, unless otherwise posted, but the other ones are already posted up there, and put there. I think there's 1, 2, I want to say 3 as you exit from between Stone Valley Loop. I think there's 3 signs, and at least leave 1 or 2 of those on there for people coming out. Just trying to see what's going to go. Keith and I are going to meet and talk about, get all this stuff put together so we know just what we have to give. That's one of the things I was thinking about. Yeah, Gary.
Talk to the mic, talk to
Chelsea,
the mic.
Chelsea also has an insurance claim going, so maybe we ought to wait to see if we get any money from that.
Well, that's only gonna cover the damaged signs. It's not gonna replace everything,
Yeah, well,
but
we got some that are,
I will say, keep in mind what your original intent of this study was. It was to bring to get compliant, to bring the sheriff in to enforce.
Right.
And if this traffic engineer is saying that you only need one sign at the front at a minimum, that's okay. Understanding anything you do above and beyond that is not a requirement of the study. It's an excess as a desire of the
It's a
committee.
recommendation, and my plan, and I try to run down Keith sometimes, he's been pretty busy, would be that once we decide on what we want to do is to get with the consultant and say, okay, this is what we want to do. This is the sign we want to put up, not the sign you're recommending we don't think really helps in our community with this sign. And make sure that the consultant agrees with what we want to do before we put a cost factor in, as far as what signs we want to get and how we're going to set up. We need to talk with him first, before we make a final commitment on that. So, yeah, we're not, that's why I'm trying to get ideas here so we can put it all together and then sit down, Keith and I go over all the stuff and then maybe get some questions through the consultant.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
That when you sit down with staff, you either take a map or a drawing and you in red put the required signs, and then above and beyond do that in a different color.
Right.
And then that you can bring back to this committee.
Right.
And show and get a cost proposal based on that. Okay, if we do the minimum, it's this cost. If we go above and beyond, it's this cost. Because knowing how much these signs cost, that is going to be a major factor in your decision.
No
Here.
no question.
And keeping in mind, the more you put in, the more you're going to have to pay to maintain over time. The more,
Right. And that's one of the problems we have with the poles now. They've not really been maintained for a long time. You can tell because some of them are busted at the bottom and a wind kind of blows them over, but it's just they just needed to work. We probably should do that even if we didn't have this survey going, because those signs are really bad. Most are in pretty bad shape. But that's kind of what we're going to, because before we can finalize it, we're going to have a map to show exactly where we want to put it, and then and stuff, and make sure that when they get installed in accordance with that map and stuff. And there's some different measurements on here. It says 7 foot, but it's 7 foot from the top of the curb, not 7 foot from the ground. So that could only be, might could be a half foot. So we need to make sure that they do those kinds of things when they install them, to make sure, because they'll come back out and remeasure everything before they move on.
Just a down the road question. After we do all this, do we have to pay this company to come out and re-inspect it?
Well, that's all part of the contract.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Before they'll sign off on it, they've got to come back out. They give us their recommendations. We'll fix them. They'll come back out, relook everything over. If it's all within what they have or what we've agreed on, then they'll certify it.
They'll certify it, and we'll use that as part of our application to the county
Right.
for the interlocal.
I just want to make sure we weren't going to get
No.
$4,000 to re-inspect.
No.
Yeah.
No. Don't.
But for what it's worth, I agree with what you said. I think one of these, no parking signs, as soon as you turn onto each street. As soon as you turn onto each street,
Right.
have one of the no parking signs.
Yeah.
For each individual street. Right. I see the
Agreed.
stuff that goes on, and you're gonna say, yeah, we can't park on Pebblebrook, but we can park on Bluestone or, yeah.
And that's one of the problems. Okay. The other thing that we touched bases on was the gatehouse, and that's putting up some. And I think I put that in the letter I put with this here, is to look at the signage at the entranceway. And of course, one thing they make mention in their survey is the stop sign has to go up to 7 foot, and that's just the one coming in for visitors. They make mention of that. When Keith and I talked about it, we told maybe it would be good to put the stop sign up. What we may need to do is put a stop bar there also. The best way to control traffic is with paint. Paint's the best thing to control traffic. So you put that there, because people aren't going to stop anyway. Because if you stand there and watch them, as soon as that gate goes up, they're coming through. On the other side of the island, instead of putting another stop sign, just put a yield sign. So that both on the right side, people coming through would see the yield sign. They would have to yield to the residents coming in instead of putting a stop sign. They're not going to stop in
That particular post is broken. Part is in the ground. Yeah. The other part we have in the back. We also have 2 stop signs at the end.
Right. Well, we're trying to put this together, and we think that would be the beneficial thing there for the
I don't think they're gonna, if they don't even do the stop sign, they're never gonna pay attention to a yield sign.
Well, they don't pay attention to stop signs. You stand up there and watch them. As soon as the person gets their slip, the gatehouse guy flips the switch for the gate, and it goes up, and that person, they just fly right on through. A lot of them that are here a lot do kind of slow down and watch for residents coming through. But other people, they just, the gate's up, I'm gonna go straight through. So we need to put a little, maybe be a little more protection, a little more control, at least posted out there with that. So we're looking at.
Well, the guardhouse,
Huh?
the gatehouse should not put that gate up until,
Right. I've told a couple of them that, as far as, even Joe and said, well, why don't you wait until they get there before you raise the gate? Or maybe we need to put a loop there.
That's what we had been talking about probably 6 months ago. Put a loop in the ground so when they stop at the stop sign,
Yeah.
that activates the gate to
Gate,
come up.
right.
That would be the thing to do, I think. Because
Or
that,
Gary and I spoke the other day, we get one of those devices that puts the spikes up at the road
Yeah.
for flat tires, and then they'll learn after the first time.
I was over on
I'm surprised we haven't had a bad accident out there.
now, that's true. There's good side swipe one or two times would cause a problem, so.
I think when the gate goes up, they actually don't think the stop sign applies
Right.
anymore. Because they think you need to stop,
Right.
but once the gate goes up, I think they think that's the green light and don't bother. A yield sign might actually help a little bit.
Yeah.
on that.
Okay.
I'll have the can get a price on putting a loop in the ground.
Okay, that would be good. That would be good. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Everybody has had a chance to look at the material they have, and as I say, some of the signs that practically all of our signs have to be tightened up, put at the right height, etc. On a thing. After a while, the wind and stuff kind of shakes them loose. So you've had all that material, and hopefully between now and our next meeting in January, Keith and I can get together and work a lot of this stuff out, sign wise and stuff, and get some costs. Hopefully our contact guy at the sign company will come up with the numbers that we need as far as refurbish or new poles as they go along. And then once we can maybe move some around too, all that would come in handy. We'll have all that in one package hopefully at the next meeting. So anybody got any other comments on that? I know I did talk too much, but I'm sorry. Get down to yeah, that's what everybody, that's the one sign everybody who, Margaret said something about that once.
That's the perfect height for her, because she goes, I can see it every time I come by.
Yeah, but she drives that great big internet, that great.
Well, no, when she's walking.
Oh, when she's walking. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's got her
Okay.
Durango.
Landscaping repairs. Let's see. Jim Kennedy and Tom were out looking at stuff, and Tom, I know I got it here, Tom, left a package of information. Oh, here it is here. Some pictures and stuff of what they're, and a list of what things that they think we need to do as far as, and this is what's left over from the hurricane damage and stuff. And Jim, what do you want to add to? You said we had what? We had about 7 trees that could be.
Seven stumps.
7 stumps that could be ground out.
There's some that definitely have to go. If they're right out there, you see them every time you walk by. There's a couple that'll be hidden once that foliage, I'm not sure what that plant is called, grows back up, but they trim down to the ground. And then there's this one, number 4, it's a tree that was in the bush, the hedge, I guess, and I mean, they cut it back pretty well, but it could just be cut back closer to the root and just leave it alone. That one you really don't have to do much to. I did not call anybody to get any prices because I had no direction. So if you want, I could do that, but I didn't get any direction. I didn't do anything with the little stumps that were within 15 feet of the lake, which Jim says the gateway at the CDD is responsible for. I know he must have a good 12 of them or 15 of them that we have. So sitting there. And there are a number of trees that need some help, right? So there's dead limbs on them.
Yeah. I think
or,
they're, I think the dead limbs are growing on them.
They're really,
Every time you go by them, you see more of them. I don't
yeah,
know, we have
they're
the same
bent
thing around the room.
over, or they just look like crap. There's some, sorry, that's my technical term. They have, at one of the pump stations on the lake side, there's some bushes back there, and they're just all like, they're almost hanging, they're pretty much rotted away. And
Really?
that needs some help. And that was it for that. But I didn't do anything with that, but I'd be happy to go out there and, do a similar thing and get it all together, and we could deliver it to, Elle, and she could put it on her schedule for whenever these things are. I suppose.
3 bids, since it's not a hurry.
Well, I don't know, with the stumps, you gotta tell me which ones you want taken out. I can certainly do that, that's not a problem. It's just.
The two
I
on,
need direction, so.
the two on Pebblebrook between Greenstone and Pebblestone, those are gonna be a grinding and a half because them roots just really go, yeah, both sides of those. The other ones look like they would be pretty much standard going
Yeah.
down and stuff, so that would be.
5, 6, 7, definitely.
Yeah, 6.
And 2.
Yeah, 6 and 7.
5, 6, 7, and 2. The other ones will eventually be hidden, you won't really see.
I need to point out that the ARC requires people to remove stumps when they remove one out of their yard, no matter whether it's visible in the street or not. So if you leave a stump, people are gonna ask why they have to remove them from the back of their house or in the shrubbery or whatever around their house. So
I don't have a problem just going ahead and doing all of them.
I don't either, I didn't know.
Yeah.
What the sentiment of the board is, or.
they wanted me to grind the one right above my propane tank.
Yeah.
That would've been a good trick.
No, I had to do mine in the backyard too, so, I don't.
Do them all.
Do them all, okay.
Yeah.
So should I get pricing on them? Okay.
Why don't we,
I got 3 companies.
do we have, if that's what we wanted to do, hear a motion to remove all 7 stumps?
I'll make a motion to remove all 7 stumps and get 3 bids.
Okay.
Does the district have a vendor that they use for grinding stumps?
Not really.
No.
Well, I don't know if I don't think Mainscapes has
Well,
a grinder.
so you have a motion on the floor. Is
Oh,
there
I'm
a
sorry.
second?
Okay.
Question on second.
It's, I know,
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
second for discussion. And then,
Okay.
we,
3 bids.
we have vendors that we use, that I'm sure you can reach out to Jim and find out, what ones we've used in the past, but ultimately getting 3 quotes is the best.
Yeah, right, especially for those, because they could run a lot of different costs, because like the landscaping company we have, when they come to do one, they have to go rent the equipment, and then you have to pay that rental cost, plus the other where, like Joshua Tree has their own, I think, some of the other ones that we've used here have their own grinders, which lowers the cost a little bit, but they can schedule a lot easier than the other stuff, so getting 3 bids would be good, and also checking with Mainscape, because they're, as I say, they're gonna do the oak tree down there. I don't know who they use to grind them out, so that'd be
I'll
contacted,
check
so.
it. I'll call Jim and ask him. My other question was, when you grind them down, you get that, the stump is good for putting around trees to act as like we do with pine straw.
Yeah.
Do you want to save that? Does it have to be hauled away? Do you want to put it around
Most
some
time I just
trees?
kind of rake it into that hole to let it fill up that hole, let it sit for a while.
Sometimes it's quite a bit, just so you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
It's
they
not gonna
let
be
it
level.
settle, and it settles into that hole quite a bit.
Because then you're gonna want to put, eventually, I'm gonna guess, when we're not using it, if it's not in the bush, you're gonna want to put some sod on top of it, just to make it look better. So
I think that's next.
with those, I'm not as worried about the ones in the bushes, but those ones that are right out there in the front, I would just like some guidance on what it is you'd like to do with that.
I would say
I say use it as mulch and we just put it around maybe a local tree or something like that.
Yeah,
But do you want it hauled away or you don't want it hauled away? I mean, I just want to know.
most of the time, they won't haul it away right away. They just leave it on the
Okay.
stump, and then later, as it soaks down, then if we decide to put sod over it, they'll come out and rake it out and then put the sod on top of it, if that's what we decide to do. Or if we decide to do a tree, for another tree or something there, then they would dig that out and put the,
Can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
That when you get proposals, ask for a price to haul it and then ask for, like, just to grind it and leave it in place.
Okay.
That way, then you can bring those back and make a decision.
Well, Jim can probably tell you what the standard procedure is.
yeah, Jim knows, yeah, just work with Jim. Okay,
Where will the final decision be made on whether to cover it or put a new tree in? That decision.
hopefully next, I put it off, but get that done, at the next meeting, we can look at that, got that down, see what we wanna do.
Just from aesthetics purposes alone.
Well, I put some stuff in here about that as well.
Yeah.
And what he told me, what his,
Right now, personally, I think
Suggestions were-
it looks pretty good right now with those 2 trees gone, because the light pole
yeah.
is shining quite a bit right there too, so that helps too, but it's kind of open right there too, so take a look at that as you're up and down Pebblebrook and see what you think. If we're gonna put a tree, I think we're going more as something that's a local tree, some kind of palm tree or something,
No, not another palm tree. We need some shade trees.
shade trees, okay?
Well, he said to be 60, he wants to use these black olive trees,
Yeah.
not the other ones, those nice
The
green
oak.
ones.
Yeah, they're dirty.
Not the ones that we had in the backyard that we took out, but
Yeah.
those nice green ones.
Yeah.
Nice.
Getting more expensive on our 200 the hardwood trees are more expensive to trim when.
Oh, yeah,
The
that's
hardwood
the other
trimming.
thing too, yeah.
Then maybe I.
They're like, what, 3 times the price of palm?
Okay, we haven't voted on this. All in favor of taking the, all 7 stumps out and having Tom get 3 bids to do that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Got that out of the way.
While we're
And
on
then,
it,
other landscaping thing
will,
we had,
will Florida Power and Light come and those poles that are down, will they come and put them back up?
the light poles, I'm not sure.
We've reported every light pole issue to FPL. There's tickets that are out there for them. They say 20 days, but yeah, maybe.
Well, I called on the same thing. They weren't even taking, light pole.
The best thing that I can recommend about any light poles that you see that are down or that are out or lights that are out is go on FPL's website and report it yourself. The more people that report it, it might draw their attention more, so.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, with the landscaping, is that we were asked to make a recommendation on the median on Gateway Boulevard, on the grass and stuff. Someone told me that a couple people had a recommendation or a way to do that, but they're not here.
Margaret and Kathy, they said
They
they
were
got
gonna come,
drawings,
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, so I
I don't know what happened.
haven't heard.
I could say I went to, where Jim recommended that I go to look at this shell, thing over by Skyflex over there. And it doesn't really look that bad.
Yeah.
You know, having the shells down with some bushes, in that area as well. So it's not where it's just gonna be totally white, right? You're gonna continue to keep some of the bushes, but then I guess it keeps down and it eliminates maybe the need for having pine straw or whatever else is going on, that washing into the street, having to constantly replace, so.
The purpose of changing things out there was for the safety of the people working. And the shells was one of the first things that they recommended, and that went over
Like a lead
bad.
Like 11 I mean, it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
I don't know
But-
I don't remember what the cost was.
Apparently, they made reference to the area over by the high school where the roundabout is and all that. They have the shells over there.
I didn't see that.
And everybody's, well, it's on the roadway, it's here, it's don't stay, and they have all kind, and they had, I don't know how many people speak at the Board of Supervisors meeting about not doing that. Really didn't look very good, et cetera, out there. And this was the other alternative, was put some kind of grass out there, but imitation grass or whatever.
But they never treated that soil as junk out there.
Yeah.
And when they first did it, the weeds just kept coming up and
Right.
coming up. And that's what's gonna happen if they put grass back out there.
Well, this would be, wouldn't be grass, it's the synthetic grass. So there'd be no, wouldn't be no weeds in there, but then they.
Coming up.
It'll come up through.
Weeds growing anything.
Weeds will find a way, but the other alternative, you know, is they wanted the bushes out there, we discussed the bushes, because they need water, and they've already taken the irrigation out, and they said, well, those bushes don't need that much water. It's a good block for traffic at night with headlights coming back and forth in that narrow spot right there. It kind of breaks down that light a little bit. So they gave some pretty good reasons why, and I know at the last meeting, I think you got them a copy of what the plans were supposed to be, or the original.
We received a copy from Margaret, and I believe we distributed that out
Yeah,
to
I've got
the
it,
committee.
I've got it at home, my other file, I didn't bring it with me. That kind of shows what it was supposed to be originally, but it still has, when I looked at it quickly, it still had the idea that still had to be watered, still had to be maintained, still had to have people go out there, and that's the big concern that I would say is the workers out there, and that roadway is pretty narrow right there where that is at.
And I will tell you, we did have, there was an accident, a crash down there, and one of our light poles went down. Come to find out, it was a new, fresh new driver that mistaked the gas pedal for the brake pedal. And so we did have a pole taken down in that area, so we're working on through that. So this is another example of why we're trying to have less people in the median less frequently. And I think the shell was the initial idea. I think from a staff perspective, that's maybe not necessarily the best idea. That's why I think we started looking at maybe some pebbles, heavier, that won't wash out like mulch. But ultimately, the board is looking for input from this committee and working with your community for, you know, a viable solution to bring back to them. So.
Yeah, I think someone said that the bushes that are there now don't need much water, so they wouldn't have to put the irrigation back in. But I don't know, I get a little concerned, because I think you have plants, and like right now, we haven't had rain in what, 40 days or something like that. So, you know, and now those bushes to me don't look that bad, but then again, I think it's supposed to get rain tomorrow a little bit. Yeah. So who knows when the rain's gonna come? They're gonna have to put something out there. I think the cost to put it back in there was something like $10,000 to $15,000 because they took everything out. And I would be, you know, I am very concerned about the traffic safety aspect of it. I mean, that's a bad road anyway, coming around that curve where that curving is. And then if you have someone out there working, even if they have their signs posted saying, you know, men working, it still creates a problem because some of these guys don't pay attention to where the cars are, and you'll see them blowing stuff along, or they'll be out in the middle of the road edging or whatever. And if you're going 35, which would be an unusual thing for most people on Gateway Boulevard, you don't have that much reaction time for something. And when you're going to regular speed, you know, a little speed with, you know, 35, 40, 45, 50, you really run out of time. Then on a curve, the way it is dangerous. And stuff. And sometimes these folks that are working just don't pay attention. They think that you can see me because I got my yellow vest on. Yeah, that's the last thing you usually see before you hit them is that yellow vest. And we don't want to do that. So I think that's direction we need to take a look at. The costs on this grass stuff really high. I thought
The proposal on the grass, was that to do the entire median?
Yeah.
And rip everything? What if we left the bushes in the middle so we have the break, and then have like 2 foot wide or whatever, based on the width of the median, strips of grass on the 2 sides? They got no reason to be near the edge of the road.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the whole design was set up to go, but I didn't see anything from staff on leaving the bushes in. I think the bushes come up.
Yeah, again, it's about the safety of the workers, and they would have to trim those shrubs, you know, at some frequency. I don't know what that is, but.
I don't think those bushes have ever been trimmed.
Yeah, they were. This recently they were. In fact, I think a week and a half. Because I was watching the people speed by them.
Yeah.
I think twice a year is probably sufficient, and if they can stand on the the artificial turf and do it. They're not gonna be in, the bushes aren't gonna grow all the way to the edge of the median where they have to stand in the street to work. They can work from being on the median.
Again,
It's only a couple times a year. It
what
should be
I
pretty-
would recommend from this committee is you bring back a good, better, best recommendation with input from your community to the board. And whatever your good, better, best is, staff can work on pricing, and then we can take that back to the board with a final decision with input from you all and the community.
I would like to see what Margaret and
Perhaps,
Kathy,
perhaps somebody can reach out, somebody can take the lead on that
Yeah.
project and reach out and find out if there's a volunteer.
that's-
Yeah, they
one
want
of them is on your board,
Looks like Chris
Yeah,
is,
to be here.
and it's your,
They told me.
and it's in front of your community.
Boy, they forgot.
Oh, you moved out?
They told me, have a good night, you know?
Well, I should say, you're the head of the group. It's your community, so if you want to check with them and see what they have,
Yep, it's on my list.
and then we'll, okay.
And then if they have it in a format that they can send to you, send to us, then. we'll have
the
it.
plan that they showed physically at the last meeting is what was distributed that day after the meeting that was scanned and sent out. So unless there's a drawn up plan that, I mean,
That was the original on the DO, wasn't it?
I don't recall. I'd have
Okay.
to, I'd have to
I'll
find
have
out.
to take a look and see what it was, so, okay, okay. So do check on that,
Yep.
and see, the board meets tomorrow,
Yes,
and they meet, are they gonna meet
Fifth.
between,
the 5th and then the
are they
19th.
not gonna meet on the,
Next,
between holidays?
tomorrow is their second meeting of the month,
Okay, they just have two, they don't go every other week,
correct?
okay. Then why would not? So, okay, be the 5th, our meeting is on the 11th,
It's the 5th and the 19th.
5th and 19th, okay, so we'll put it on the agenda to finalize our recommendation so that we can get it to the board by the 19th. Okay. 1/19/23. Okay. And the last thing on the agenda, Chris, do you want to mention that?
I was surprised to see that on the agenda, because it's done for a month now.
Had to remind people.
As a matter of fact,
We've talked,
our temporary CAM, sent in a paperwork, notice of commencement or something?
Yes.
Sent to Laura.
Yep, we got it yesterday.
I guess that's.
It's required as part of the permit process.
That's what I figured, mechanically, have to come in and do a final inspection or something.
Yep.
okay.
But yeah, it's in, and
Did they like it?
I would think they do, they keep it closed much too often for my liking. And it's also got a tint to it, because somebody asked me, you just put up tinting on the window, I'm like, no, it's just with low E and insulated and hurricane, it's just got a couple of layers, so, you know, it works, because it's on the sunny side.
Okay. Looking at the agenda, we don't have any subcommittee updates, do we?
Nope.
Okay,
No subcommittees.
member items and reports.
Before you jump into this topic,
I was waiting for you to do that. Go ahead.
so as you all know, we have been working with Gary, with Margaret, to try to actually implement the O&M that was approved and adopted some years ago. Gary, I don't know if you want to give an update as to where, or Chris, do you want
I
to?
signed the paperwork for the checking account.
Okay, perfect. So,
that should be getting done. And our new interim CAM is the assistant manager that used to be at Pelican, so he's familiar with those, Chris Santos.
yes,
So he's familiar with all of you and how that process works, so that's a bonus for us.
we can talk later about that. So the plan is the group, we had planned on implementing this O&M and action the first of the year, which ultimately puts the responsibility of the majority of what this group meets about in the hands of the HOA. And so I know that there had been some discussions in the past about potentially dissolving the Stoneybrook Advisory Committee on behalf of the district, an advisory committee to the Board of Supervisors at the district. And what you do beyond that is up to you. But the district's agreement with the HOA is laid out that they handle X, Y, Z. It's the budget, minor capital repairs, roads, sidewalks, access control, which includes the gatehouse, entrance monument, and landscape. So all of those items would go and be overseen by the HOA. The question is what does that leave here for this committee? And if you wish to dissolve, ultimately the board of supervisors would have to make that final decision. If you wish to stay active and continue and maybe have oversight of the HOA and the O&M agreement, that's ultimately the board has the final decision. But from a staff perspective, turning the majority of the day-to-day minutia over to the HOA, there won't be much to talk about. Let's put it that way. The district's responsibility would be, as it sits today and as it has been for years, is lakes, flowways, street drainage, culverting, drainage control structures, preserves, and conservation areas. So ultimately, that's our public works department. So I'll leave it at that and see if you guys have any comments or discussion here.
Questions, comments?
Who's gonna,
Well, as I said before, if we go that route, maybe what you should do is put a little, mention it to Flavia and see what their initial reaction is to it, if we went away.
Well,
Because what I would do is then ask all of these people to stay on as a committee at the HOA and still do this work that they do. And then work with the CAM to get the bills paid, things that we have to do. So we still have 7 people working, but instead of sitting here, we're sitting there.
Will evolve into like the Stoneybrook Board Advisory Committee.
Yeah, something like that.
I was gonna say, because who's gonna oversee the HOA, making sure all this stuff gets done?
The new president.
Right.
Or Warren,
Yeah.
we move this in house, he can still be the top dog.
No.
well, and
Something else.
to help with that, we do have staff oversight of all, we're getting there, of all of our agreements, and making sure that both parties are staying true to the agreement. We've actually just gone through the same kind of thing with Pelican and making sure, okay, are we meeting all of our obligations that we agreed upon? And has Pelican done the same thing? So this O&M agreement, if the HOA isn't, if we get a complaint from Jane Doe who lives on Pebblebrook that the landscaping isn't being maintained, we would reach out to the HOA and say this needs to be resolved. And if it's not resolved, then then the HOA technically isn't meeting the terms of the O&M agreement, and we would address it in that sense. So the district would have oversight of the actual agreement, but not the day-to-day operations. We would have oversight from the staff perspective on the reimbursement and making sure, checking all of the T's or crossing the T's, dotting the I's with regards to the invoices that are being requested for reimbursement. So we'll have a sense of really what the HOA has been doing the last month. So, and then of course, we'll have staff here if the HOA, if whoever, their liaison is, if they had questions about something, we would always be of assistance.
And if anybody has any concerns or suggestions, we have another meeting, I think the 22nd.
Yeah.
It has always been my opinion that if the HOA had taken a hold of that O&M 12 years ago, we wouldn't need this committee. It's always been my feeling that it was spelled out exactly pretty much who does what, how it's going to be done, et cetera, et cetera. And I knew Pelican was doing the same thing, and they seem to be operating really smoothly. I felt, why do we need this? And then I come on the committee and I said, well, we're doing stuff that should be done by the HOA because it affects Stoneybrook. And that's I don't care if you're the Gateway is gonna pay for it, or the HOA is gonna pay for it, I could care less. I want the community to look good. I want the community to have the stuff they're supposed to have and get things done the way they're supposed to. And if the O&M had been implemented totally back when, that we wouldn't need this committee, that the report could come, because it was all pretty much set up the way you've got it set up now, Chelsea. So, you know, I don't have a problem at some point going away. Now, if they're gonna change over on January 1st, I would say maybe we need to stay on for a couple months just to make sure they got their feet on the ground or whatever, or whatever, and see how it goes. But I wouldn't see going more than 90 days after the first, by March, by your annual meeting to.
Here's the problem I see. We only meet once a month. If this group is internal, which can't happen until the supervisors dissolve it, because until they dissolve it, we're still down by the sunshine law, we can't talk. The sooner they can dissolve it, then we have this group inside. The leader of this group will work with the CAM, just as you do now with Chelsea and Laura. And it should be the same thing. It almost has to happen like at a certain point in time.
We're closest to you.
Yeah, I mean, now Monday night's meeting, I can, you know, everybody agrees, give me a name. I'll form the committee. I'll have all of your names unless somebody wants to walk, and everybody will be put on the committee, but we can't officially talk to each other until this committee is done.
So then the next opportunity, again, the board has to make a final decision, but the next, other than tomorrow, which I would not recommend walking this on tomorrow. It would be on the January 5th meeting to take to the board a recommendation of whatever this committee recommends, if it's, you know, wait, or if it's dissolve, you know, effective the January 1st date. Whatever that recommendation is, should go to the January 5th meeting.
What's the funding? Would the HOA get funded through the tax revenues
No.
every year? Or how
No.
would that?
So
be?
as the O&M agreement sits today, the HOA cannot charge the district an administrative fee. So it would be the HOA's responsibility for the oversight of those items that I previously mentioned. And they've set up a separate checking account. The district will put in district funds, which essentially are your guys' money that you paid into
Currently
taxes.
the 04 account, I guess is the number. Is that it?
Don't ask me. Laura can
Okay.
spit it. We'll put in a set amount of money into that bank account, and then the HOA would oversee the day-to-day operations, pay bills out of that account, and then submit a reimbursement package once a month to the district, and the district would put whatever that reimbursement amount is back in that checking account. But that would have to be reconciled and statements and reviewed and everything each month. So essentially what it is the pot of money is sitting in the district's checking account right now. It would move the HOA's checking account, and then the HOA would do the day-to-day. And again, this is nothing new. This is simply just enforcing what's on the books.
Right.
They're gonna start us out with 2 months of,
And you get reimbursed every month.
Yes.
yeah, we gotta have the bills in by the 10th, I believe, all at once. By the
And,
10th.
yeah, Laura said within 2 days you'll have it.
Yeah, it'll be wired. It'll be very
That's no
quickly.
problem.
Self-direct deposit, so.
So we've pretty much worked out all of the kinks internally with the processes, but I'm sure we'll have little hiccups the first month or two, but that was our internal goal that we set, was January 1st. It was originally, I think, December 1st, and it was delayed because of the new year and your guys' fiscal year starting then, so it was just a cleaner cut for the HOA to start on January 1st.
And we also didn't get the checking account.
Yeah.
Hopefully that should be done. Should have sent that paper in this week. Follow up on that.
And then we'll have to do a test wire just to make sure it works.
So they do like $1.
Yeah.
The one little other caveat on it is that by the resolution for our committee, the first meeting in January, we elect new officers. so it works good that we won't have to just,
Yeah, by that
if
time,
we
by that
dissolve.
time, we should know what we're doing, because the board will have had their meeting
Yeah.
the Thursday before.
Yes, yes.
So January may be our last meeting.
Yeah.
So if everybody's good with the idea, what do you want to call the committee? Back at Stoneybrook.
Stoneybrook Board.
Liaison committee.
Stoneybrook Advisory.
Well-
Stoneybrook HOA Advisory.
I think the first thing that needs to be discussed is about the, making a motion of whatever it is, if it's to dissolve, if it's to continue, if it's to continue for a time and date certain, until a time and date certain. I think that needs to be discussed and a motion made here today.
Well, my feeling is, like I said, I've always felt that the HOA should be responsible. You know, they complain about some things, but about the Gateway doing some things, but the things they've done is the same things that every other HOA does that doesn't have Gateway involved with it. You know, Magnolia Lakes, they do all their stuff, their roads, their sidewalks, all that stuff. Here we get help from Gateway. So I think it's just bringing all the stuff in the HOA that it should have been in there a long time ago. And if we didn't own if Gateway didn't have the roads and that aspect of it, it would be. That would all be under, they would already have all that stuff worked out. So, you know, my feeling is to go ahead and dissolve at this time and go to the January 5th meeting, that aspect of it. And then that gives the HOA time to decide what they want to do as far as they want to start another committee, because you have your meeting the third Monday.
Well, we can keep it the same. The next meeting was supposed to be when, the 11th?
11th.
So it can still be the 11th. It's going to be up there, and it'll be a new committee if the board does, gets rid of it on the 5th. So we
That
can
work with you?
This isn't my committee. This
Yeah,
is,
well, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Make a motion.
it would be, so it would be a recommendation to the board to dissolve.
To dissolve, yes. Yeah, that'd be the only thing we'd have to do.
So how do you want me to word the motion? Make a motion to dissolve the
Advisory
advisory
committee as of January
effective,
1st.
effective January 5th, if it's approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Right. Okay. That's a motion. Do I hear a second?
Can they approve the dissolvement of this retroactive to January 1st if their meeting is on the 5th?
It doesn't, it doesn't really matter. There wouldn't be any action. There wouldn't be any action of this committee in those 5 days anyway.
And again, the advantages of doing this is we can become more efficient, react quicker, and attend to
We can
issues
talk
without
to each
month
other.
after month.
We can talk to each other anytime.
That's the big
Right,
thing,
yeah.
being
That
able
would
to
have
talk to each
more
other.
quicker contact with with folks getting things done within the
That's the whole
HOA.
idea.
You have a question that has this been discussed with the Stoneybrook Board?
Yeah, I gave a presentation on it.
And I know all the directors are on board with it. The only one that might be a little bit hesitant is Margaret, but, I spoke to Joe. Joe said, I've been saying that for years.
That's a lie.
That's what he told me.
That's a lie. He fought that tooth and nail
Yes, he
until
did.
about 2 months ago. He was sitting out there and we reminded him that he's on the other side of it.
And Margaret voted against.
Have we made the motion?
And there was a
We have a
second.
motion and a second.
He seconded.
We're just
Okay.
discussing.
I know.
Where's
I
discussion?
understand that, but we're talking about personalities now.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Any other comments? Some of us been on this committee too long. Sorry. Any more comments or questions on that? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
So I will draft an item to go to the board on January 5th with the motion that was just made.
Okay.
And Warren, if you could be there in attendance to
On the 5th?
speak to it, that would
I
be.
don't know if I'm counting socks that night or not.
Well, I know the woman who can hide the socks.
Okay, so we're down to,
Okay, now
anybody has any comments?
Now we can be prepared and give me a name and everybody's saying, yes, and I set it up Monday night board meeting. So that when January comes, we're ready to go.
Just gotta Thanks for
Everybody's
Margaret,
staying, right?
presented at the January meeting.
Stoneybrook Advisory.
There you go.
Needs to be more descriptive than that.
Yeah.
Its name sort of needs to indicate what we're actually gonna do.
Has a little bit of description.
Well, that makes it easy. They planned on submitting it, they planned on their presentation at the January meeting, so now they don't have to go that far.
And you don't have to check with it.
Yeah.
Cross it off your list.
That's it. Okay. Any other comment? Just, if you have something special, this is member items and reports. Anybody got comments? I'm not going to go around.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
in my stump, well, first I'd like to know, do you want me to, like assess the number of stumps that are around the lakes that need to be, removed, or that we can send back to, I'll make a list and give them to the CDD so that eventually it can be on that list.
Yeah, I'd work with Jim, and get that, because he knows who to contact to get some, proposals and stuff on it. And
I'm just talking about all of the other
The
stuff.
ones that Elf is in
that-
charge of, that,
Exactly.
okay.
that's 001, not 004.
Oh, okay.
So do you want me to do that or not? It's up to you guys.
No, I think just the 04 funds, let them worry about the other ones, yeah.
So you don't want me to do it, get a list of them or anything like that? You'll just, they'll get to it whenever
Yeah,
they decide to.
can do that on-
Okay.
I think they
Are
can
you talking about the stumps that have been there all along? or
No, a lot of
the new
trees
ones?
I cut down recently from the storm that are.
And the
There's
trees
been
that's
some
down in the
And they're
water,
just sitting
Some
there.
there all along, they agreed to remove years ago, never did.
yeah.
Well, if you wanted to,
And that way,
push
as
that
that water
along to
gets
get
higher,
them to
then
maybe
it
do it.
covers them up and then they can't get into it and stuff, and they're pretty well waterlogged.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So I noticed, do we pay that Joshua Tree for trimming these trees? Because a lot of there's 5 lights that I've looked at in my travels here that are still, one is, this tree is already growing around the light. It's gonna block it. There's another one that's darn close. There's some that are, there's 3 others that are not as bad as those, but they're gonna be, getting covered soon by this. And I'm just curious, did we finish paying them? And there are a couple of trees that need to be trimmed and that still have big pieces of dead limbs hanging off them. And, I mean, if we're not gonna, trim the trees, when our power and light comes out again, can they move some of these posts into locations that aren't gonna be required to be trimmed all the time? And
Let me call, the guy, our contact at, Joshua Tree. Because I haven't been out to take a look at a couple other trees that they were supposed to do, and they have supposed to pick up a sign that's still in your parking lot. And so I have to get a hold of him anyway to come pick it up.
Oh, one of his construction.
Yeah, one of his
Yeah.
construction stuff. I'll check with him, because they were supposed to come out and do all that, but I thought it was gonna be before Thanksgiving, and I just haven't had time since
all
Thanksgiving.
right, well, there's
Yeah.
quite a few things.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
there's-
they did a decent job, don't get me wrong, but there's still, it needs to be.
There's a few that I told him that they missed, and he's, well, they're right on the property line. Well, if the trees in our area, so is the branch that's hanging over a little bit. There's a couple, and they were supposed to clean those out, and they didn't apparently. So let me get with him. I'll get with him.
And then so last, there's a lot of, there's limbs spread throughout, and there's a tree trunk that's on on certain, one spot that's right near the path there. Are we gonna get rid of that stuff?
That would be up to Mainscape to do that, I would think.
Where?
Uh,
Where?
Along Pebblebrook, they do the maintenance along, they cut the grass and clean
Is
it up.
there debris from the hurricane?
It's like, there's one tree log there that's pretty big, and there's other limbs that are mixed in all over the place with some of the
So
shrubs and
is
hedges.
this, but is this from the hurricane?
I think so.
Would have
A lot of it
that, or
is.
that they've just been falling out of the trees because of you can't get everything in
And I'm
there.
just trying to figure out how we can clean that up because it looks pretty shit.
Well, I don't know if you have noticed, but the county put out a notice that all of the landscaping debris, they're gonna do their final sweep through Gateway in the next Friday, and then like this week or next week. So,
Is that what's along Gateway Boulevard in the small little piles here and there?
that's a whole nother animal. That's because it's technically considered commercial and the county doesn't pick up, they,
Oh, I thought that
there's a
was
story
stuff that-
behind it.
I thought that was just stuff that little odds and ends that Mainscape didn't pick up.
No, that's hurricane debris that, especially down towards Daniels. So that's a whole different story because of it being considered commercial and the county picking it up with reimbursement. But that's my understanding, is that the county is supposed to be coming through and doing one final sweep of all the landscaping debris this week, if not next. So perhaps if you still see it out there by the end of next week, if you would shoot us an email to customer care and let us know.
So these things should be put in a pile, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Get a hold of Jim. He works with Mainscape.
Well, I don't know that it's going to be Mainscape picking it up.
Well, just collecting it, yeah, they, because there's still some other stuff out there that
Well,
needs to get done.
let me touch on that because it's come to our attention that part of the Mainscape's contract includes areas that are properties that are not district owned.
Right.
Which I think it's been referred as Tract B.
Yes.
And so we will be clarifying and cleaning that up prior to,
Contract.
prior to the HOA taking over the responsibility. We're doing this throughout Pelican, throughout the district. The district should not be paying to maintain areas that is not district owned.
I think the area that I'm more familiar with between Stone Valley Loop and Ivory Stone, Mainscape does that area, has been, even though that's owned by Stoneybrook.
Yeah.
And that's been I'd say a backdoor agreement.
Yeah, there's
to
been
do that.
a lot of handshake agreements.
And I think that needs to change. And the only way to change that might be one way later on is to get one big landscaping company to do everything.
I was just gonna
Well,
say that might be some bridge we might want to cross.
Because
I think that's something moving. The first step is to draw the line of district property and district assets and what the district should be paying for. And so and then by January 1st, we're gonna get the maps out and we're gonna, Jim's gonna work with Mainscape and they're gonna draw it up of what they're maintaining. And then we're gonna look at property ownership and see who owns what, and we're gonna correct the contract to reflect district owned.
Right.
So, but with that, we'll be working with the HOA because we don't just want to stop cutting it and nobody start to cut it and realize that they have to maintain it. So we will be working closely with the HOA and making sure that there's clear communication with that.
the reasoning behind Gateway cutting that area was because there's a water flow through there. And
a drain that goes to the lake.
In a drain, 15 feet below the ground, it goes through, and that's what they've used. And it's been a long time. And I think it started back when Stoneybrook was broke, and Gateway kind of picked some stuff up.
Yeah.
And it just kind of stayed that way. But right now, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that area anyway. So, some of your neighbors are throwing trash out in the middle of that thing, limbs and stuff out in the middle of it.
Yeah, we got our landscape guy looking at it this week and getting.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I get a lot of complaints on that from some of our residents.
Because I found out that Mainscape cuts the grass and we do the trees. But even Mainscape cutting the grass, that's 004, right? That's not 001.
04, yeah.
Yeah.
And we run into a problem with our our property lines on most of our villas go pretty much about 35 feet from the villa out. That's about, give or take. And we've been doing a lot of the trees through there when we do ours, because if we didn't, they would look like hell back there. And we also cut a little bit further. And so, they need to kind of move their stuff in. We can work on that once we, start working on the stuff that Chelsea's talking about, and getting that done. So, okay. Anybody got anything else?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
And it's probably a Stoneybrook question, but if the committee in Stoneybrook reforms it within Stoneybrook, are they only going to manage Gateway assets? Or are they gonna pick up other duties within Stoneybrook?
As of this time, we only need to do the same stuff we do here.
Oh, for fun. That's what I would say.
Yeah, 04 expenditure.
However, if you've got a group doing similar stuff and Stoneybrook has something that needs to be done, why would you have somebody else do that? And why would you pop that onto this committee as well?
The only committees we have are ARC and yours.
Understand? Well, I mean,
That's it.
okay,
We don't have any other committees.
okay,
So this will be the third committee.
all right. Then I'm gonna suggest something like the Gateway Asset Management Committee.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Works for me.
Okay, good.
Any other questions or
Right there.
comments? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Virginia, Chris? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, stop everything.
You
Mouse.
I'm betting,